Hello there. This is how to review. This is an optional video, which is why I haven't made much of a mention of it, but how to review for a test. Firstly, what you want to know is what is on the test. And what is on the test is everything that we have discussed. I wouldn't spend much time talking about something if I wasn't going to say it might be on the test. Is it true that an individual sentence here, there, could not be exactly central to an exam? Certainly. But if there's a slide dedicated to it on a PPT, or if there is a diagram dedicated to it in a chapter that has been assigned, if there is a page dedicated to it in a chapter that has been assigned, then that is on the test. Then the second question you might be wondering is, well, do I need to memorize every single word in the textbook? Well, of course not. So of course you think, well, then what do I need to remember? A general guide is words that are in bold. You should certainly remember them and also understand them. Words that appear repeatedly over and over, you should understand them as well. What if there is a paragraph that does not that does not have any bolded words in it? What then? Well, this course is more than simply a vocabulary list. It is also about ideas. So when you read a paragraph that doesn't seem to introduce any new key terms or new key ideas, what you should ask yourself is, do I understand what is in this paragraph? If I was asked about it, would I be able to remember the general idea and be able to explain it? So general idea for paragraphs that don't really introduce any new terms. What about diagrams? Diagrams that are in the book. Those are not mere learning aids. They are also part of the textbook. They are part of, say, chapter 1, chapter 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you need to pay attention to them and look at the terms that are on there as well. Why does a teacher bother lecturing? Because, well, what I do is I try to stick largely to the book so that we can make the most efficient use of your time as possible, so that you're not having to sort of learn two courses, what I have to say and then what the book has to say. There's another reason, though, as well, and that is simply that students have different learning preferences. Many students simply learn much better by hearing it said. That said, haha, get it? That said, other students learn very well by reading, and other students learn only if they hear, read, and then write out their thoughts on it. So you can think of the lecture as simply an additional aid to learning that you hopefully enjoy and hopefully is helpful to you. But largely, the textbook, oh, let me bring my hand here. I feel like I have more authority when I use my hand to say something. The textbook is what you need to know for this course, for this test. Aha. Okay. Now, slide number 2, and that's the only other slide. Let me describe to you how I think learning should be thought about. Firstly, there are basically two things about learning in the college level environment, especially in a course like this. Biology, lots of terms, labels, words to memorize, then also ideas, even sometimes some problems to solve. So the two components of learning are essentially understanding and remembering. Smart students can get terrible grades largely because they're so good at component number 1, understanding. They listen to the instructor talk and perhaps they simply just absorb all of it and understand it quite easily. Problem is, if they do not write any notes, do not refer back to the textbook, and do not and thereby have nothing to review if they haven't written any notes, is that the second component of learning, remembering, becomes very difficult for them. Remembering is the part of learning that is essentially time. There's no way around it. Not really in a biology course. A very few of you will be able to simply hear it and then understand it and remember it. Most of you will have to put in that time. There's just no way around it. You got to put in that time. What should you do when I say put in the time? Firstly, if you have already been able to achieve the grades that you want to achieve, both in this course's quizzes, labs, etc., and in other courses, you can certainly just feel free to turn this video off because everyone learns differently. So don't let what I say um, uh, mean, don't interpret what I say to be you're wrong about how you study. If your studying is working for you, then do that. Here's what I have done, and I think is the most broadly effective way to learn. In college, you're going to read a lot for many courses, maybe most or all courses. So when the exam comes and I say, hey, read all the chapters again, you'd say, that's crazy. They're too long. And I would say, I'm sorry that I said that. You're right. They are too long. You can't reread all the chapters, or at least I couldn't when I was in college. I did not have the time. It was way too much. So what you need, the purpose of writing notes is making the textbook into a shorter form so that when you need to review, you can reread your notes and you read a shorter bit of text, and it reminds you of a larger bit of text. So you read these little notes, and the goal is that if you've written them well, that it will remind you of more of the more things. It'll remind you of more words that you may have forgotten, but then, oh yeah, I read my notes and now I kind of remember even more than was even in my notes. Um, another thing, notes, the first time you write them, they're pretty bad if you're like me. They're ugly. My handwriting is like a can of paint fell out of the sky and splattered all over the road. It's like crazy. So the first time you write your notes is probably not going to be good enough. You need to come back and give it a second go. So it depends on the student and the online. The benefit to online is you can pause lectures at any time, so you might be able to make some really high quality notes your first time through, depending on your style of note taking. If you need to go through your notes again, I took some online courses for my graduate degree, by the way, and so I do know how this works from the perspective of a student. What I did is I had to listen to the lecture and then I had to read the whole text again, the whole chapter again, and take a second version of notes, basically, just because no professor is going to be able to articulate things in as much detail as the book. That's why they're two different things. The book and a lecture, they're different forms of information, so they communicate differently. In a book, you can reread a paragraph multiple times much more easily than you can re-listen to a bit of lecture. Also, it is always clear, perfectly clear. I might have cleared my throat or lost my train of thought briefly and said, as I'm a human being, every now and then I exhibit that feature, being human, sorry. So there I go. I said, terrible, terrible. What was my train of thought again? Oh yeah, so when you reread the textbook, when I reread my textbook, I would often stop at various intervals while rereading the text, and I would, here's that last point there, write summaries of my notes. Now, students hate doing this. They despise it because for a long time they do not see the efficacy of it. Also, when you are writing a summary of something that you have just read about, you are overconfident in your memory. You are thinking, I understand this already. Why would I rewrite it in a shorter version? That's silly. Writing in a shorter version? I have a longer, better version. Here's the thing with that shorter version. It's shorter, and that means that it will take you less time to reread it. It'll take you less time to reread it when you are reviewing for your exam and you don't have that much time. Now, you might also be wondering, why is it that he didn't tell me this in the beginning? And the reason for that is this. Firstly, this is college. It is assumed that you know how to learn. You've graduated high school, most of you, or at least you've demonstrated in high school that you are ready for a higher standard and a greater degree of independence. The second reason that I'm only now telling you this is that only now will it have some meaning for you. Only now will you see, wow, there's a lot of terms in biology, and I need a method to condense what I am reading and what I am hearing into a more palatable and digestible, shorter, compact versions so that I can review for exams. I myself did not fully organize this attitude towards learning until I would say I was in my master's program. It took me that long. So if you're thinking, I'm terrible at this, don't worry. Most people are. Most people are not the greatest students in the world. Those of you who are already very organized, you're way ahead of where I was when I was in my first year of college. Final thought. If you are a student, and I am not posting this article on Blackboard because I do not want you to think for 1 second that it is required reading at all, because it's 12 pages long, and I know you're all busy. But if what I am saying here resonates with you, and you're thinking, I like this, it makes sense, I'd like to hear more of that, then there is in my world, famous essay written by Dr. Schwerenson or something, and it is called, you don't need to know the name of it, it is called Learning Your First Job. And it's an essay about how to take notes. It is written by a very popular British university professor, and he does not hold back at all. He essentially goes over these 4 points that I have stated here with 2 bullets and 2 dashes. Um, and if you want to get that article and you're having trouble finding it, you can email me about it. I'm just not making it super available because I do not at all want anybody to think that you have to read it. It's 12 pages long, and I know you're all quite busy already. So that's a side note. Side note, anyway, I can promise you one thing, and that is this. If you work harder, over time, your grades may improve. If you are a student who has a C or a D, you are certainly wanting your grade to improve. I cannot promise you that your grade will improve over this with this test, or this second test, or this third test. This is a 100 level course. It's an introductory course. But I can promise you this. If you are struggling and you begin to put more time into your studies, eventually your scores on exams and assignments will improve. I've been an instructor for going on 12 years now, and I have never seen a case where that was not true. But sometimes it did take as long as a year. Changing who you are and the way that you study is challenging, and most of the time there are real reasons that you are facing challenges, such as shortage of time, large number of priorities that make it hard to say, no, I'm not going to take care of my child right now like I would like to. I'm going to read this book from this Mr. Mean McLeod who's making me read all these chapters. I understand that. That's why it sometimes takes time. But do not give up, and know that that is the simple fact. All people can learn, and the harder you work, the more you will learn. Good luck on the exam. And that was such a great conclusion there, but I realized I just forgot to mention one thing. I'm sorry. Terrible. Anyway, there's a study guide posted. Feel free to go through it. I myself, I think pretty much every instructor posts a study guide, so I've basically been, this is called tyranny of the majority. The majority of instructors post study guides, so I have to. So I have to post one. It's posted, great. You can read it. It is about the main things that you need to know. If you can answer all those questions, then and know about all those things on the study guide, I can't see how you wouldn't do pretty well. The only thing is that I'm not going to say that I have encapsulated every single word or term or concept on the study guide. That's what the book is for. The book states exactly what you need to know. So if I was a student, well, I do well in science. No, I mean, go figure. I chose it as a major, right? And so if you're a student who does well in science, going over the text, re-skimming the chapters and rereading your notes in the manner I have stated is what I would do. But if a study guide gives you a sense of confidence of making progress by going through bullet by bullet, and it reduces your anxiety for studying, then for you, the study guide will probably be a very helpful tool. Please email me with any thoughts or concerns you have. and good luck on your first exam. Conclusion number 2. Bye-bye.